Welcome to the Sacred Window podcast. Here, we look closely at the intersections of the postpartum window, the Ayurvedic perspective on health and healing, and the universal mother principles that are the keys to giving and receiving effective care. Hello, I'm Christine Devlin Eck. I'll be taking you through interviews with professionals who are making a profound difference in the lives of their clients, conversations with individuals brave enough to share their stories of vulnerability as a way to lift up others, and my own journey through birth, parenting, caregiving, and building a conscious business. We are here to honor the sacred windows, the profound transitions in life that give it all meaning. Welcome to the conversation.
And I will never be the same again.
Welcome to the Sacred Window podcast. It is my great pleasure to welcome Nicole Stratis to our space today. And Nicole is going to be sharing her story of self-healing to service work, from farming to bodywork and herbalism. Nicole and I connected, was it maybe 4 to 5 months ago? And it's been such a gift to kind of weave into relationship with Nicole and the incredible people that she surrounds herself with, who have then now become part of our community. Nicole's work is really centered on guiding women home in their bodies through the art of sacred touch and embodied presence. Her path to becoming a licensed massage therapist, yoga teacher, biodynamic craniosacral therapist began in the soil, working organic farms and apprenticing with herbalists across the country. She awakened to the profound connection between the earth's health and our own health. And through modalities including Lomi Lomi Hawaiian massage, the Arvigo techniques of Maya abdominal massage, and biodynamic craniosacral therapy, she honors the body's innate intelligence as the true healer. Nicole holds space for women to reclaim trust with their bodies, supporting nervous system healing and postpartum care with the deep reverence and presence that they deserve. Nicole, thank you for being here.
It's such a joy to be with you, Christine. Thank you for having me.
It's my pleasure. I want to begin with, I know a little bit about your story, but I think really looking at how did you find your way into the hands-on care? Like, what guided you towards your beginning?
Yeah, and really feeling that preparation for this time with you today as an invitation to bring me into my story and into reflection and seeing how spiralic it is. And, there is, of course, a linear through line as well. Yeah, I feel in just a simple way through the hands that was an initiation to bring me into my body and into the present moment. I think so many cultures around the world have done, whether it's handicrafts or farming or cooking. All of these everyday skills are very practical, but also very spiritual and very embodied. And so I really think of it. I can probably look back to my time with yoga in high school, and I was really blessed that my mom and my aunt started taking me to classes when I was quite young. And that was an invitation for me to be with my body outside of a sports construct. And that was the beginning for me to sense into my body with my hands and feeling the floor and feeling my feet. And then later in college, when it was such an academic, a heady space, even learning, I was studying environmental policy and studies, so we were learning about the earth, but I started to get that itch in me, that readiness to go outside and to be with community and to be in my hands. And so I started to work on farms, and towards the end of my degree, the whole herbal world really opened up to me. That's what it feels like. I had a view of one way of viewing the world, and then all of a sudden was like a veil lifted and this whole green world was here all along, and I got to be introduced to the plants, to the herbs, beyond the food plants. And that again brought me into my hands and into my body. So I'd say that was really the beginning of it for me.
It's so interesting to me because my oldest children are now teenagers, and I see like all of us are on this path, and we kind of take on the constructs of society around us, and the, patterns that we observe from grown-ups around us when we're really trying to find our way. And while, it's so beautiful to have like, your mom and your aunt who took you to yoga classes and opened that space for you, we still unavoidably still have to like find our own path. And talk a little bit about how like plants, that they have this ability to like help us tap into something that's almost like an awakening of perspective inside of us. And I get the sense that that is what was drawing you closer to them. I'm curious, what that was like for you at that time.
Yeah, I love even hearing you speak on that. Everything kind of gets sparkly and that magical feeling, really. It felt like magic that I was opening to, meaning an ability to work with the elements and to be part of nature. And I feel like the plants, it's kind of ironic being of a different species and a different kingdom, but really feeling like they continue to invite me into deeper humanness. I think animals do the same as well, like having a dog invites me into being more human. And perhaps that speaks to what you shared, kind of more in that cultural conditioning, and that these beings, plants and animals being, yeah, they don't have as many imprints as we do. They're more connected to their, yeah, to their source and to their mission, really. Um, yeah, I feel, well, I think working with the vegetables was a great foundation for me because it helped me to connect to my food, just in a really grounded sense. I was helping to grow my own food and learning about food systems, and from that place, then the herbs really showed me that it's beyond food that the plants can provide, but there's medicine, and then there's spirit as well. There's just the energy of being with, especially the herbs, and being in their presence. That, yeah, what was that like for me? And still continues to be. I really is like this slowing down and a deeper listening, and I feel like, especially coming from a farm background, which is very, it was beautiful, organic, diversified farms, but it's very intense work versus going into herbal gardens. And these plants kind of invited a slowing down and a wildness. Because a lot of the medicine of the herbs, they're not bred to be as cultivated, or if they are, they're cultivated in a sense to retain their high medicinal content. So there's something in them that's untamed. And yeah, now reflecting, I feel like it helped me to remember that within me as well.
Mm, mm. So cool. I talk like I actually also worked on organic farms for a number of years as a young person, and before all these other chapters of my life began. And I found that it was almost like a stripping away of a lot of what I thought that I knew and understood about, yes, like food systems for sure, but also a little bit on, um, I don't even know how to describe it. It was like this ability to to be raw and real and hot and dirty and sweaty and like know pretenses, just like hands in the dirt down to absolute basics, and then to see the absolute beauty and organization of the earth as it produced this incredible bounty. And then also to be able to learn how to use that, because so many of the vegetables that I was working with, some of them I had never even heard about. And I feel like it was a real opening for me to understand how food healed and how it actually could be so, so simple. It was like the simplest, most beautiful, perfect organization of what humans need in this whole process. I think it really shifted how I understood everything about how to nourish myself in the ways that I might have been actually really harming myself in different ways through the ignorance of what that process was.
Yeah, it feels like an intimacy. I feel like it's the word that is coming for me. It's this sense of, yeah, you said awakening. It's like this awakening of relations and seeing that intimacy that is inherent with all of, especially the weather. I remember my first few weeks of working on the farm. This was in Vermont, and the owners would say, like, we would get there and they'd say, all right, what's the weather going to be today? And they were kind of testing us, like, did you check to see what the weather is going to be, because that's really going to inform what the day is going to look like. And so we all quickly learned that we have to be aware of what we're stepping into each day, and a deeper listening, whether that's actually looking online for the weather, but also just observing and looking outside and recognizing patterns in the season. So yeah, stripping away those layers, I definitely feel that it allowed me and continues to allow me to arrive in the present and to drop, especially coming from like an academic space. I think especially in the Northeast, it can be quite heady. So to drop deeper, and you have to be in your body, especially around like beyond gardens, but like on a farm, you have to be really in yourself to be aware if there's machinery, but also like you're working with a crew, there's like a little ecosystem of humans working together, and there's a pace and a rhythm to that. So definitely brings one into just an awareness that we're part of the ecosystem, and then the power that we have too, because sometimes it felt like we were kind of trying to play God a little bit, just being like on a farm, because you're inherently trying to control, but also you have to let go of control and really recognize it's a co-creation. But it's not purely just happening. There's a huge human element in that vision. Yeah, so it was very empowering to just feel like, oh wow, my hands, my body, the capacity of my own strength can be in collaboration with the soil and all the other beings.
Mm. And I can see a relationship between working with our hands in food production and medicine production and working with working in the bodywork field. I feel like there's a lot of connection there. Talk about how that transition came for you. Like, where was the introduction to becoming a body worker, and how did that simultaneously like help you heal yourself along the way?
Yeah, I love looking back at that moment, because it really feels like my body was somewhat initiating me into that, but as well as the plants. Kind of funny enough, I had a very clear, I feel like it was like a few days, where I was living deep in the forest out in Western Mass, or like central Western Mass, and I was kind of living alone off grid, working on these herbal gardens, and so deep into that listening with the plants, where I feel like I was hearing this or becoming aware of this communication that, okay, it's time to learn how to work with humans. And for myself as well. Like now, the plants have provided this deep sense of belonging and safety and orienting to the universe as benevolent and giving. I feel like they really provided me with that. And I don't know if I would have been ready to go into touch and working with humans, because this provided a foundation. The plants provided a foundation for me to slow down to a different pace and really heal my relationship with food and with my ability to receive. In high school, I know I had shared with you a little bit, but I received treatment for an eating disorder and was really, really privileged to be able to go receive treatment and be open to that. I chose to leave school and go receive that. And I feel like that choice to go and receive and open up to healing is really important, and then has continued over the years, that ability to open to life and to receive life. So the plants and the food systems really helped me to get a good, go to some of those roots of that healing that needed to happen. But then once that level of safety was established, I had to look at what is that going to be like, that safety within my own body. And yeah, everything really happened quite quickly for me, where I started to receive biodynamic cranial sacral for myself. I was at a very anxious time. I think highly sensitive. I just was extremely opened energetically. And I found that practice and received a few sessions. I had no idea what they were doing, and I just knew I wanted to study it. I knew that this is going to be a path for me. And parallel to that, I also learned abdominal massage on myself, and being able to use my own hands and touch into all of my, my digestive organs and feel into, where is my uterus and bladder, and have that ability to turn my hands, like, because I was so reaching them out into the earth and bringing them in. I wanted to have some sort of foundation in body work so I could go and study both of those modalities. And massage sounded like the most fun out of all of the things I could have studied. And I just quickly, then I was off to massage school.
It's so exciting and freeing to not only learn like walk towards the path that's going to help us to serve the wider world and our career paths, but to have it be a path that simultaneously allows us to open up further into relationship with ourselves and our own power and our own authenticity and all the ways that we too need to heal and balance. This to me is just so beautiful to listen to, because I really see it as this parallel journey of like serving and also becoming. Um, yeah, and so you are right, you're writing a book, and this is how we got on this conversation originally. And I was like, Nicole has to come on the podcast and talk about this because what, I think this journey of self-discovery through these paths of profession, what I've heard you talk about to me, and I'd like to invite you to share about it a little further, is coming into that origin point of who you are and how that origin point of your own being in preconception and your own birth story, like how does that origin point inform this path that you've been on?
Yeah, I feel like slowly pulling back those layers and taking my time to do that and not rushing that process it allows me to kind of integrate and see the story, the story of my life. And that's why I find writing to be very therapeutic and really helpful to explore story and to explore where that red thread has been and what the deeper teachings are there. Yeah, there's so many places I could go from here, but I'm thinking of biodynamic cranial sacral, where that's really the foundation and why that word biodynamic is used. It's orienting to the forces of nature and these forces that usher us in even at the time of conception, and then as well as supporting us and always breathing through us. And it's through that study, that in practice, that I've been able to slowly peel back those layers to look at how I got here and into this moment, and what layers are ready to be released that aren't really at the core. I don't know if there's someone that specifically said this, but I've heard in yoga this idea that the practice of yoga isn't adding on things, it's really taking away that which isn't oneself, and that's really, it feels like that process for me. I have a deep fascination to the preconception energy, like that time between, and now we're getting into spiritual beliefs, but this is purely experiential for me, that this is information that I've received from my own guidance and my own exploration, as well as working with clients in cranial sacral.
How are you sharing your gifts and passion for caregiving with others? In a world where education and awareness around the postpartum window is lacking or missing from our modern systems, we have a profound opportunity to shift that paradigm. You may be a few simple offerings away from making a truly impactful difference in the lives of mothers and families in your community. We are here to support your journey in the ways that work best for you. Schedule a conscious care strategy session to meet one-on-one with me, and let's identify the right next step for you to begin a path of conscious care for new families that fits your life and your needs. Visit www.sacredwindowstudies.com/strategy-session to schedule a time that works best for you. That's www.sacredwindowstudies.com/strategy-session.
But kind of this energy that a spirit initiates as they go into conception, and really this feeling like this choice that they're coming in with a certain energy. And not to say, I definitely view infants as pure and innocent, and that there can still already be imprints, and that might not be from birth or even during in utero. It might even be before then, and that is my own experience. I received a lot of vision when I was in the jungle. I went down. This was actually right before I had that transition into going into Bodywork. I was down in Peru and I did a plant dieta, an immersion into master plant teachers, and received some vision around and teachings around what I incarnated in with, and how the energy that I had when I was really choosing the womb of my mother. So like before I even did that, I already had certain energies that I see that my language is like the soul was carrying, and those certain energies, it's like a domino effect, have rippled everywhere. And so during this vision that I was receiving, I went through the conception process and in through the womb and through the birth and through probably about 1 years old, and that whole sacred window. And I could see how I was still carrying and unraveling those imprints and how that was informing my life, and continues. I'm still frankly working on that, and well, taking off any pressure of work, but exploring. I've taken on that journey, and now thankfully I have a frame for it. And when I say imprint, this is like a biodynamic word that we use when we can. I mean, the word trauma can be so heavy because it elicits such a negative, oh, it's a negative thing maybe, but it's these things that there's a force, there's something that happens that we hold that hasn't had time to and space to really express fully. So there is a challenge, perhaps, that's there. And yeah, through my practice and study, I've really been able to, and this is another biodynamic word, but orient more to my blueprint, which is, I feel like, beyond soul. It is a deeper connection to source, and like this inherent health that is always present, this inherent intelligence. Like there was an intelligence to and a wisdom to why my soul experienced what it did, and has rippled throughout. And so I can now hold that while also really like quite physically, like leaning back and holding a wider space, and seeing the wisdom there. And the one last thing I'll say about that is the mantra I kind of left, that visionary space was, it was like I was hearing, you and the mother are one, you and the mother are one. And at first I was like, whoa, what's that mean for me and my biological mother? But it included her, but it was so beyond just biological mother, but really this deeper holding that was present. And if I can orient to that embrace and that like cosmic womb that is there, that can hold me through being able to work on all of this. Yeah.
Mm. Nicole, thank you so much for sharing that. It's so affirming to listen to you share that experience because, you know, I think it helps for me bring up the understanding that, you know, we come in with a lot of layers, and it's a mystery for most of us of how we have this tendency for this, or we, have this challenge over here, or we, feel this in this way. And to really be able to rest back in the understanding that our blueprint is perfectly vibrant and exactly as it needs to be, and that there's a greater wisdom here. There's an agreement that we have with ourselves to understand more about that connection of ourselves and the mother, and the higher connection that we're all tethered to this earth with. Like we're here, but we're also held in a much more comprehensive way than sometimes it feels. Like it's this really full, beautiful, trusting way. And we can rest back on understanding that our blueprint is divinely perfect. Um, and, I think to take spaces in our life where we allow for that connection to really be clarified and affirmed, for me, those are some of the most powerful moments of my life. And I think that, major transitions like the sacred window, this is one of those opportunities. And if we're feeling safe and held enough to be able to tap into that opportunity of trust in self, of trust in source or God or goddess or whatever word aligns with us to use, it's aligned with, it's connected to just trusting ourselves because we're one with that. So, I think that it's no surprise to me that you were drawn towards sacred window care and postpartum uh, support, because that is like really a similar portal, as to the ones that I can see in your life. You've really invited in to understand yourself more, understand your path more. Um, yeah, I'd love to hear you talk a little bit more about this natural evolution to working with babies and parents.
Yeah, it lights me up just hearing that. It feels like it was in front of me this whole time. And it was such a gentle, it wasn't such a, oh, here, let me pivot and go this way. It felt so gentle, just arriving and finding you, Christine, and finding the center. I knew right away, oh yeah, this is where I'm meant to be. And I've always loved, like I said, working and learning about embryology and conception, and yeah, but just practically working a lot with, in my abdominal practice, working with folks after they've given birth, but actually like longer down the line, like even years later, and things that have presented, and they have a story, and they share their birth stories with me, and I have goosebumps saying that, because it really has always felt like, wow, such an honor to have received people's birth stories, whether it's for their child or for themselves. Because working at the abdomen, even if we're not doing specific uterine work, we're working around the umbilicus, and so much comes up for people. And whether they're verbalizing or they're sharing their somatic story with me, and working with the sacrum and connecting to the root and connecting to that level of safety and holding that, any little one within us wants to, of course, first receive from our parents and from, whoever held us in that beautiful, time of growth. So that's always been at my fingertips, and my own deep curiosity and preparation. I would love to be a mother one day. So I just, like, going into Bodywork, I feel this mirroring of, I'm doing this for myself, my own lineage, and from that space, I would love to share as much as I can with others. And I love that about your school, is that you focus so much on that mirroring there. And to truly be able to tend to the village, you have to also have a village. You also have to have those layers of support. And that's what attracts me so much to specifically postpartum care, is the communal aspect of that, and to help support healing community, and like what our perception of community is, and bringing people this wisdom that I really feel like most lineages have had. All of these, it might not be specific how Ayurvedic care looks, but there is definitely so many similarities across the world in this time. And yeah, when it comes down to it, just nourishing people, because if I want to be the most authentic in my practice, it's coming from a place of, I've had to learn what does nourishment actually look like for me? How can I practically nourish myself and enjoy it, and how can I share that with others? And and the infant care is a place that feels very new for me, and I see that as like a one day. I can feel more comfort around that. I've done some pediatric training with the cranial sacral, and it's so precious being able to work with newborns. And it really, when you're working with a newborn, you're working with the whole family system. And I know you know this, and it shows up so much when you go into people's homes. but working with a newborn is working with their parent. And so many times I'll actually end up working with the parent, because the infant is so sensitive, especially like doing nervous system support, that if the parent receives that support, the infant does. Yeah.
It's so beautiful, the bond there and how they're just synchronized. You said something before, and Nicole, by the time this podcast conversation is going to be released on the day that you're doing our meditation next week. So listeners, don't worry, you'll have another opportunity to connect with Nicole in the coming months. However, I didn't really think about it until actually just now in this conversation that like the umbilicus, this meditation that you're going to be taking us through is allowing us to like really connect with that. And actually, as I was listening, I had this moment of like if we allow ourselves, like it is a vulnerable place to like really open up and discover some sensations that might just be lodged, or some feelings, some greater understanding, some memory. Um, because I guess I know this, but I don't know, it's hitting me in a new way of the umbilicus and the umbilical cord and being connected physically to our parent and the whole birth process. Oftentimes people don't spend time thinking about that incredible moment of entry into this world. And I think that through your experience and the work that you've done, you are inviting people to really take that step for themselves in some ways that are really accessible, that are just simple and safe. Like it's safe to connect with our umbilicus. And if anything, it brings us closer to that blueprint of understanding that we are inherently well. Like our inherent natural state is wellness. So I just want to thank you for the work that you're doing and for sharing it with this community. And to give listeners a preview, Nicole is coordinating a beautiful roundtable gathering with a number of craniosacral therapists. So we can really dive quite deep into multiple perspectives on working with babies and new families on this, like that connection of family connection. Like there's so much possibility. And during the sacred window and those early years, like that is the subtle ways of being treated. Like that is the most impactful way, in my opinion, to really experience a balancing of whatever is out of balance, because the energetic, subtle elements of air and space are so heightened. And so the practice of craniosacral therapy, which in its essence is so subtle, is such a harmonizing method to reach people. And I am very curious about the biodynamic aspect of it, which is new to me. This is something that I am learning through you. Um, but I love how it supports us in really connecting to that greater energetic story, that greater story of who we are in the universe, how we're connected, where we're going. And yeah, I'm just delighted by it all. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I'm really looking forward to that panel, and we'll all learn a lot together. And what's so great, what I'll just share about that practice is, especially during the postpartum time when things have to go slower for them to be able to be received most of the time, this practice is orients from a place of stillness and listening so that it doesn't overwhelm the system. And perhaps the system has been, the parent child has gone through a very fast process, or strenuous or whatever it may be, even just arriving into incarnating, and both parent and child having gone through some sort of birth, rebirth, and this practice allows them to use that subtle space to their advantage, so that we actually don't need to quote unquote do anything to them, or there's nothing that has to be done to someone. It's really allowing their body to be supported in its own healing process. So yeah, I look forward to learning from all of these teachers. And would it be okay if I make a plug here?
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
because is my teacher, Dr. Kate Clemmer. She's about to start her next cohort for training practitioners, and she's out in Charlemont, Massachusetts. And I'm helping to support the teaching team, which has been such a joy. And she's doing another intro module in February. And if anyone is hearing this and they feel a call to learn more, you don't need to sign up for the whole 2-year training, but if you want to go to the intro and see how it resonates for you, I just highly recommend her school, Divine Structure. And yeah, I'll be there myself, helping to support. Yeah.
Yeah, and I can attest, having met Kate, um, that she's an exceptional person, and I can only imagine her as a teacher. So thank you for sharing that. And as we close, Nicole, on this journey of moving towards your goals and visions and understanding of where you're supposed to be, I know that you've been navigating some transitions and moving and things at this time, but what is it that's helping to bring you into a space of centeredness at this time in your life?
Yeah, back to basics. Back to basics with the herbs and with my own self practice. So, really going back to my relationship to my whole apothecary. I was organizing my apothecary, and it really felt like a bit of a soul retrieval for me, where I just felt all of these relationships and resources that I have. And because each plant consciousness feels like it's like an access to different parts within me. So I'm just going really deep this winter into my own herbal care, and as well as doing all these own practices on myself. I think in times of transition it can be really easy to lose these practices, but they're the ones that are most supportive. So what I mean by that is my own abdominal massage. What's so great is we can touch our own bellies. And yoni steaming is a really, really supportive practice for me. It totally allows me to drop into a deeper sense of safety and settling and opening to this life, and instead of just concentrating on opening the crown and the mind, helping me to open my root down to the earth and really feel that sense of connection. So that's what my winter is looking like. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Nicole. It's such a pleasure to get this time with you and to look forward to so many more opportunities in the future. Thank you for sharing your story.
Thank you so much for the opportunity, Christine. This was great.
Shanti, Shanti.
The Center for Sacred Window Studies has been training postpartum care providers, professionals who work with new families, and individuals passionate about postpartum care since 2018. We regularly host live free events alongside our online and in-person training and certification programs. Hop on our newsletter list to get direct access to all of our events and community support gatherings. Our mission is not only in training conscious postpartum care providers, but in fostering a robust, informed, and thriving community of postpartum professionals. Once you step inside, you're family forever. Visit www.sacredwindowstudies.com to add your email to our newsletter list. You can support our work by subscribing to the Sacred Window podcast and sharing with someone you know who would love it. Thanks for being here and participating in the culture-wide shift that recognizes the need for and the importance of conscious postpartum care.